Today I'm reviewing one of the most inexpensive electric scooters that you're gonna see on this channel. But be warned, anytime you're shopping for a cheap electric scooter, you're fishing in the danger zone because many of them just aren't made for adults, they're made for kids, or they feel like garbage to ride. When you're looking for scooters under $350, your best strategy is stick with the major brands, look for the longest warranties, and watch reviews like this one. When you do that, you'll find that certain brands and scooters rise to the top. Like the scooter I'm testing this week. This is the new KQi 100P. I'm Paul from Electric Scooter Guide, and for the last 5 years, I've spent more than 10,000 hours riding and testing electric scooters 5 days a week. This is the new KQi 100P. It's one of NIU's least expensive scooters. In fact, it's their least expensive if you want suspension. It comes with 9.5-inch air-filled tires. It comes with a 2-year warranty, and it's one of the easiest electric scooters to ride. We're gonna test its true top speed, see how far you can ride from 100% to empty in sport mode, see if it's any fun to ride, and test one of the biggest danger zone features for cheap scooters. We're gonna see if it can climb hills. But right now, let's see what it looks like right out of the box, and then I'll go for a top speed run. All right, we're back on day one with NIU's KQi 100P. Let's get it out of the box. All right, so we've got our manuals, our little tool, valve stem extender to make it easier to air up the tires, and the bolts we're gonna need. Let's see, it is, oh, it's a 1 amp charger. That's actually pretty slow. So I'll be curious how long this takes to charge the battery. There we go. All right, let's do some peeling. So it looks like we got about 50% charge. If this was all the way empty, it would take 5 hours to charge, so we're looking at 2.5. Next, I'm gonna get it up on the stand. We're gonna check the top speeds in each of the modes, and I'm gonna see how much it weighs. Haha, they said 38 pounds, and it weighs 38 pounds. All right, so we're gonna start at eco mode. 9 miles per hour. It's not gonna let me out of eco mode until I complete a little bit of riding first. And so I'm gonna see if we can do that right here on the bench and trick it into thinking that we've done our first ride. Okay, I think that means we've completed our first ride. Now we're in drive. There we go, 17 miles per hour. I think that's the top speed, so it looks like we only get 2 modes. Oh wait, sport mode. Also 17 miles per hour, but probably with faster acceleration. So as we're going from like the KQi 1, 2, and 3 series, and now we're getting into the 300, and then this is the 100, it's clear we've hit a new generation of new scooters. And so let's see some of the new stuff here. One I'm noticing right away is, there's no center display here. In fact, there's a little window here. Don't know what that does yet, but your display is just all right over here, and your controls are all right over here. So that's definitely pretty different. The other thing I'm noticing is it's like a very different frame. We've got the tubular frame, a little gusset right here. Love that all the charge ports have moved up to the middle where they're well protected from tipping over or from the weather. And then you just got your bare tubular frame coming out to the back. Got drum brakes up front, which is something we're used to from the KQi 2. Of course, probably the most exciting feature we're seeing showing up on new scooters now is this front suspension. It's pretty beefy and it's got decent travel to it. Also, I'm noticing this deck feels really long for a scooter of its size. And then look at the rake angle here. I can see this is leaning back more than most scooters. So let's see how many degrees that is. All right, no, it's 16. So it's, wow, 17 degrees. So this is one of the most sort of leaned back scooters we've seen. The Segway GT2 had one of the highest rake angles we've seen. Typical is like 11, 12 degrees. 17 degrees means that this should feel super stable when you're out on the road. Now it's time to check the top speed and 0 to 15 time of the KQi 100P. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. $15, $16, $17, gets right up to top speed, and then you can feel it limit out. Check out that sailboat. For top speed, the KQi 100P beat the spec with 17.6 miles per hour. and both of its peers, the KQi 1 Pro and KQi 2 Pro. It also beat them both for 0 to 15 times, so we're off to a good start with this scooter. All right, I'm on my way over to the ESG test hill, and I'm a little nervous for the KQi 100P because scooters in this price range are known to not always make it to the top of the hill. So I'm curious what kind of result we're gonna get. It is hill climb time for the KQi 100P. I'm in sport mode. I've got the app set for maximum performance. Let's go. Okay, off to a good start. 7 miles per hour. Oh, slowing down a little bit. This is a 10% grade hill. You know, this is about the steepest hill you're likely to encounter on a normal ride, and we're still going 5 miles an hour, so that's not bad for a scooter of this price. And we made it. Okay, so now that we made it up the hill in sport mode, I'm curious, can it climb the hill in drive mode? Let's find out. Okay, good start. 8 miles per hour, 7 miles per hour. Slowing down a little bit, just like last time. Maybe a tiny bit slower, it's feeling pretty good. And we made it, that's it. But the hill climb time has got to be the biggest improvement. The KQi 100P was way faster up the hill than the old KQi 1 Pro. It got it up the hill in 22.2 seconds versus 30.3 for the old KQi 1 Pro. So that was kind of like my biggest concern, and really the biggest thing that made me reluctant to recommend the KQi 1 Pro was that you weren't going to be able to climb, every single hill that you came up across. But I just don't have that worry with the KQi 100P. And here on the hill, it came in just 2 seconds behind the KQi 2 Pro. All right, now it's time for the range test. We're gonna find out if the KQi 100P can come close to the 11.7 miles of the KQi 1 Pro. And the battery sizes are, close to the same, but the reason I'm concerned about the range here is this has a lot more power. So we'll see what that does to the range. Okay, we're not quite halfway through the range test, but I feel like I've gotta start my riding impressions right now because listen to this. You hear it? You don't, huh? Because this thing is absolutely silent. The KQi 100P, it's got sine wave controllers. It's got relatively smooth tread pattern on the tires. No rattles, no squeaks. It is a very, very quiet scooter. The tires are really nice. I mentioned them. They have tubes in them, which is a departure for new. Everything in the past has been tubeless as far as I know. And so I was a little surprised to see it say that they are tubed tires. So let's look at the cockpit. You've got sort of a e-bike style speedometer over here, really easy to read, but fairly basic. You've got just the speed, your battery level in about 5 bars there, and then what mode you're using, whether it's eco, sport, or drive. That's about it. You can change the modes. And then if you want deeper control, of course, you get into the app. The center is kind of funny because it's this big thing here, and it's got a little window right here, and I kind of wonder if that's like detecting the light outside. I don't know what that's doing, but not a lot going on there. Ignore this guy right here. That's the GPS that's sending the speed data that's showing up in the bottom right hand corner of the camera right now. Of course, next to that, we got the bell. That's pretty quiet. So very polite. It's kind of what you want for a scooter of this speed because you're going to be mostly interacting with pedestrians and bikes, so you don't want a big loud horn. So then we've got the brakes. And it's just a single brake on the left-hand side, but it's a dual brake because it controls regen at the rear tire and a drum brake at the front. It's very easy to use and easy to control, and you can't really get it wrong. There's no way this is gonna put you over the bars. NIU is really, really good at regen brakes. And they have a variable regen brake. The harder you pull the lever, the more regen you get. And that's not always the case. In fact, most regen brakes don't work that way. They're like on and off, and they ramp up, and it's really complicated. But anyway, what we've got here is a small drum brake up front, and then we've got regen out back. And let's see how hard it stops. And grab a handful. All right, that was all right. It's a small drum. I'm gonna tighten it up a little bit. Not everybody's going to want to tinker with their brakes, and they work fine. But if you want to get the maximum out of them, you pretty much have to tweak almost all brakes. Okay, here we go. We're up to speed. Gonna lean back, grab a fistful, and okay, that's reasonable. Okay, we'll do a couple more just to make sure the numbers are good. That's feeling really consistent. I think we got it. Let's see, let's look at what else is around here. All right, so we've got the grips, and I like the color, I like the pattern. They feel really good. They're soft, but they're a little dirty already. My gloves are dirty, and it's showing on these grips.
Over on the right-hand side, we have something pretty unusual for this class, this price class of scooter, and that is a half twist throttle. And you can see it's just this part twists, not the outside of the grip, and that is a very good thing. If you have a whole grip that twists, it's too easy to like bump into it and trigger it, or you know, if the scooter starts to get away from you, it's very easy to just end up adding more throttle as it sort of, you know, whiskey throttles out from underneath you. But with a half throttle, it just makes the use of the throttle much more intentional. And then, you know, the other power settings in the app, it's kind of fun to be able to dial them around a little bit, but they don't do a whole lot. Like when you have a scooter that doesn't have a ton of power, the difference between, you know, wild mode and, you know, a more normal mode, you're not gonna feel it that much. But you know what you do feel, and this is a interesting subject, is they have this regen setting in the app, and it doesn't control what happens when you pull the lever, as far as I can tell. What it does control is that when you roll off the throttle, it just sort of auto brakes for you and kind of takes away your ability to just coast. And honestly, coasting is like the most efficient thing you can do. Now, for those who enjoy, you know, one pedal driving in a Tesla, or just, you know, want the scooter to brake for them at stop signs, I mean, you know, I can see it, I get it. But for me, I don't think it's as efficient as just turning that feature off and using the brakes only exactly when you mean to use the brakes. Because coasting, again, is the most efficient thing you can do on an electric scooter. So this deck, you know, I mentioned it during the unboxing, and you know, it's big, it looks nice, but it is a little bit plasticky. And we kind of heard that sound when I was doing the unboxing. It doesn't sound as bad when I knock on it with the gloves, but you know, when I'm riding it, I don't notice that. It feels pretty much the same as the rest of the decks from NIU, but you know, the handlebars do crowd the deck a little bit, and that comes from the steering head angle that this scooter has. I mentioned this in the unboxing. It leans back at 17 degrees, and that's this stem. And it does crowd the deck just a little bit. Makes it so that you're using the rear 2/3 of the deck and the front third of the deck, you can't really get to it that much. So I do feel like my rear foot is kind of pressed up against the footrest most of the time. Now you could ride like this with your foot up on the little footrest here, but it's a little too steep. It doesn't really work. And you don't need it because you don't have the power, you know, like you're not bracing yourself back there for power. But in general, I'd say the deck is, you know, it's pretty comfortable. It's not really distracting or anything. Okay, we're down to the last bar already, and it's blinking. And so I think we've only got a mile or two left to go on this battery. I can feel it slowing down just a little bit. I'm going 14 miles an hour uphill, so not bad. But I don't think we're going to beat the range on the KQi 1 Pro. We will find out in a minute, because it's always, you know, the data logger always gets the final word. And that's this blue thing up on top of my head. It's called a V-Box Sport, and it's about 500 bucks, but the data that you get out of it is just way, way beyond anything that Draghi can give you. Okay, well, we've reached the point where the scooter will no longer go more than 4 miles per hour on flat ground, and that marks the end of the range test. So now we'll find out exactly how far the KQi 100P goes on a full charge.
All right, well, that was one of the easier range tests that I've done, partly because of the good suspension, partly because it just didn't go that far, but I covered 11.0 miles on the KQi 100P. That's 0.7 less than we did on the KQi 1 Pro, but it makes sense. I was going 1 mile per hour faster here and had a lot more power on tap. In fact, I was expecting like 10 miles, so I got one more than I expected. Now let's go back and deep dive some of the specs and features of the KQi 100P. So let's talk about the specs and our favorite and least favorite things about the KQi 100P. And I'll start with my 4 favorite things about the scooter. And mainly it's just that it's really fun to ride and it doesn't feel like a toy. You know, this is the least expensive scooter I've ever tested that comes with both suspension and air-filled tires. So it has the smoothest ride I've felt for the price, and you know, with a 265-pound weight limit, this is clearly made for adults, though according to NIU, it's also made for teens 14 years and older. Number 2 is portability. The handlebars don't fold, but of course the stem does, and NIU just makes some of the absolute best stem latches out there. But the stem to deck latch sometimes doesn't close on the first try. It's relatively easy to carry upstairs or fit in the trunk or in the corner of your apartment. But if folding handlebars are a must-have on your list of favorite features, check out the KQi 100F, and we'll link that one down in the description as well. Or you can save 4 pounds of weight and a few bucks by getting the KQi 1 Pro, but you give up 2 miles mph of top speed, and you don't get suspension. This next one isn't like the sexiest feature, but it's definitely something you want, and that's reliability and warranty. You know, these guys make some of the highest quality scooters, especially for the price, and it all makes sense when you look at their website and see some of the high-end stuff they make there. They make e-bikes, they've been making e-mopeds for a long time, and they've gotten into e-motorcycles as well. All of NIU's kick scooters come with a 2-year warranty, and that helps boost the ESG reliability score of this scooter to 8.7 out of 10. That's like an A-, B+. We score them on 11 factors, like is it UL listed for safe charging, is it IP rated for water resistance, and so on. It gets a relatively high reliability score for its price and would have scored even higher if NIU offered more spare parts availability on their website. And that's something that I think all electric scooter companies could probably do a little better on. And the fourth thing I like about the KQi 100P is that it's not missing anything. You know, most inexpensive scooters, you get it, you like it, and then you find this like one glaring flaw that can't be ignored that just keeps reminding you you've bought a cheap scooter. It's really frustrating. But I'm just not getting that from the KQi 100P. Yeah, it's no frills, but it really has all the features and performance you could expect for this price. Performance comes from a 300-watt rear motor that puts out 600 watts of peak power, giving it really satisfying acceleration. So it doesn't lag pulling away for stop signs or riding up hills the way a lot of budget scooters do. But the one limitation that's noticeable but also completely normal at this price, I'm going to cover in the next section right now. So I can think of two things that aren't amazing about this scooter, and one is the real world range. It's good, but not great. The battery has 243 watt hours, which is less than half the size of the Ninebot Max G2. If you need more range, the KQi 2 Pro goes a lot further for not a whole lot more money, but you don't get the suspension. Number two is that the KQi 100P has tubed tires, which is kind of surprising in 2024, unlike most other new scooters that run tubeless tires, which are more resistant to flats. They didn't cheap out though. You get these really nice valve stems that are bolted down to the wheel and have nice metal valve stem caps. And this last one is neither a thumbs up nor a thumbs down, but just sort of neutral, is the app. I've had some real trouble in the past with the NIU app, but not so much this time. It has a nice set of features for the KQi 100P and took a legit 10 minutes from start to finish in starting just cold without reading any of the notes. So who is this scooter for? Well, for $350, it's a great scooter for those who are trying to figure out if they want to get into electric scooters. It does all the stuff you'd expect from a less expensive electric scooter, plus a little more. It's got way better build quality than I expect at this price, a smoother ride, and anybody can ride and carry it. So it makes an excellent beginner scooter as long as you don't need, more than 11 miles of range in top speed mode or 18 miles in eco. If you think the KQi 100P might be for you, we've got links to the latest price, the specs, and any coupon codes we can find for you down in the video's description and pinned in the first comment. Using the links helps support this channel and all the research that it takes to make more videos like this one. I'm Paul from Rider Guide. Don't ride like me, but do always remember to wear a helmet. If the scooter isn't for you, well, we've handpicked 2 more videos for you that might help you find just the right one, and they're right here.